by seed and stop rewinding this, playing this, amethyst. I'm sorry, y'all. I think this. It's like, but this. You got to one C freeze. Don't steal. Nobody movement. Okay, I'm sorry. Stop playing it. I'm sorry. My bad. I was playing my warm up music and it landed on the roots. The next movement. I used to know the joint by heart. I can't remember it no more. It's out of listen, out of mind, I suppose. But I couldn't stop it because even after Will hit the intro, I said, "Wait, thought is very much still flowing here. I would love to consume this right now." So I couldn't put it down. My bad, y'all. But anywho, welcome to the Tuesday edition. Yes, Tuesday edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. We burn things down around here, things that it's beyond what we don't like, right? Because this thing is bigger than Nino Brown, right? This is not about what we don't like. This is about systems that actually are causing harm and ruining lives, even ruining generations. So these things have to go. There's more of us than it is of them, the oppressors, I say. And to quote Darnarius Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Baby, actually, let me not even attribute that to Darnarius because I think this precedes Darnarius. But kill your masters. Kill your masters. Take that away from Game of Thrones, shall you? All right. Let me get into this chat, y'all. Thank you guys so much for making the time to join me. I got an interesting show for you tonight. Everybody lives in this show. So, for my sensitive folks, you can remain, even though we do have some tough topics to tackle. One of my stories tonight has to do, well, a couple of my stories tonight. You guys are aware, like the war on drugs, they didn't really end it. I know that marijuana has become available for legal recreational consumption in many states in this rotten country. But the war on drugs is still very much alive. I have a story coming out of Texas that when I saw it, I said in 2024, I said, in 2024, people are still getting years in the hundreds for drug possession. And maybe you guys are like, well, Kim, that's Texas. You shouldn't be shocked by Texas. I'm not. The other story I want to talk to you about comes out of San Francisco, where recently a ballot measure that was on the March fucking primary ballot to authorize people who are on quote welfare and receive cash assistance. If it is suspected that they are on drugs or have substance abuse issues, they will be required to enter into treatment. If not, if they refuse to go into treatment or for whatever reason do not go into treatment, their cash welfare benefits will be canceled. This passed via the voters. However, I want to talk about the opposition because it was not uniformly well received. And yes, this was a measure in an initiative set forth by San Francisco Mayor London Breed, who is part of the Black Miss Leadership class, just like the rest of these wayward niggas around here. So we're going to look westward at the Western wayward niggas. I give y'all quite a bit of the hometown wayward niggas in the DMV, and to which there are many. But these wayward niggas are everywhere, y'all, everywhere. So we gonna get with them wayward niggas on that shit. And then the other story I wanted to talk to you guys about, I don't know if you did or did not, or even maybe heard about the documentary that aired on Investigation Discovery, the ID channel, as I like to remind y'all. I am definitely an ID channel auntie. The name of the documentary, a two-part documentary, two-night documentary called Quiet on the Set, or Quiet on the Set. And it gives a bit of an insight to what was happening in Nickelodeon, the network aimed for children's programming around the turn of the century, around the early 2000s, where it was revealed that at least 3 child predators were working in proximity to all these child actors. And, ain't no spoilers here, just the internet. Y'all, if y'all ain't see it, then I'm so sorry for you. But one of the co stars of Drake and Josh, actor Drake Bell, came forward and said that he was molested by this dialogue coach who was allowed to work in very close proximity. And there's a number of issues that I took out of the documentary, including the way that child actors are exploited, the ignorance of the parents, and not, I don't mean ignorance in a negative way, but the just uninformed way in which some of these parents who are not, quote, stage parents, they're helping their children to pursue their dreams, the way these parents were taken advantage of, the way the networks look the other way, the way Hollywood seems to squad up in defense of known sexual predators. The documentary raised a lot of interesting talking points, and I'd like us to get into them in a little bit. But in the interim, let me say what's going on to my good friends in the chat. What's up, Fire Fam? What's up, Twitch fam? You see, Will try to embarrass me because he said he said Kim don't be repping for Twitch out here. Let me say what's up to Twitch. Our Twitch rappers who go the hardest: Rosalba, Northern Witch. I know we got some more Twitchers over there, but Twitch, salute. We see y'all. Thank y'all for holding us down over there. Appreciate that. Out here in these YouTube streets. Who we got in the building? We got over our huge suspects and maybe some additional ones. We'll see. What's up, Infinite Content? Thank you so much for your early super chat support. Hey, Kim, there is going to be a major update on the sentencing of the six Mississippi cops. Yes, who brutalized those two brothers, those two black men, and they were both convicted. These, not the brothers, of course, but the cops, all six of them, I think, were convicted on state and federal charges, if I'm not mistaken. Infinite Content, wasn't that sentencing supposed to happen today? Read your social media messages. No. Infinite, first of all. I think we've established this here on this platform, and just in case we have any newcomers who don't know, Dick don't run nothing here. I don't even let Will boss me around. Will give suggestions, and Penis runs nada. I don't take Infinite. You should know this by now. You think I take orders from Penis? Please don't tell me what to do. Just because you told me what to do, even if I was so inclined, like, you know what? Yep, I probably should check my social media messages. Just because you have demanded that I do it now out of pure obstinance. No, that's a negative. I'm going to do my Googles. How about that? Did y'all see this foolishness? And Infinite is one of our folks, and he know better. You definitely know better. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do the opposite just because. Damien, enlighten your brothers. What's up, Donnie? What's up, Holly? Thank you guys so much for being in here. Wendy, thank you so much. Tyler, my son, when have you known your mother to listen to the internet? Whoo, I don't even listen to your father, Tyler. I do not even be listening to Tyler's father out here. Come on, Infinite. You know better. You can't be telling me what to do, son. Can't be telling me what to do. Big up to the whole crew, everybody. What's up, Fire Fam? Y'all get in here, man. Get in here. Smash some likes. Get in on the subscribers and blah, 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 all the stuff. Alicia, thank you, baby, for checking in. Appreciate to see you in here. Latif, thank you so much for checking in as well. Shout out to the good sis Courtney. Big up to my disability around the fire support crew. Anna, Lorraine, Abby, love you guys. Thank you all so much for all that you do and for showing up here. And to all the newcomers, just some quick disclaimers, everybody. I see we got some new folks in here. What's up, Dawn? Dawn H. So gratuitous use of racial slurs. But I keep my racial slurs only when referring to black and white people. We do not step out of pocket with our other marginalized communities. We got the smoke for the whites, and we have intra communal critique for black folks. What else? We do not hate men. We have a lot of questions for men. The ever philosophical question for the men is why? What? Why? Why? To be posed in a myriad of different scenarios and situations. What else about us over here, y'all? We got all the smoke for the bougies, the elites. We hate Trump and Biden, though we do find the humor in Donald Trump. Y'all, I wanted to pull some of Trump's recent shenanigans so bad. I wanted to pull it so bad. But y'all, the comments under the one video that I had, the comments under the video from when we pulled the clips from when Trump was addressing the Black Conservative Federation away with niggas. Oh my gosh, the people them are so angry. They was so mad at me. They so mad. And but one person left a comment that said Kim and BPM whole platform in it for Trump. I'm like, wait a second. Because you're not wrong. I'm in it for Trump, but not for the reasons that you think. I'm in it for Trump because Trump is the one, baby. Trump is going to be the one to tear this hole. He going to pull it all down. Trump can't get his way. Trump is going to burn this bitch down. Hey, nobody said that the revolution was going to happen and be led by heroes, right? Sometimes the elites will tear each other down. You know what I'm saying? We just have to be prepared for whatever comes after that. But listen, if Trump leads a revolution, it don't got to be our fucking revolution. If Trump leads a revolution that tears down the institutions of power in this colony, nigga, Trump 2024. Okay? Trump 2024. Trump 2024. Kiss my ass. Trump 2024. We are for Trump, but not for the reasons. not because we like this nigga, not because we believe in his policies or anything like that. This man is a horrible person, terrible racist, terrible misogynist, terrible all around. This nigga's hilarious at the same time. Trump calling for a quote bloodbath, whatever wild shit did Trump say. And Trump done hit our Jewish brethren and sistren with the if you ain't with the Biden shit. He hit him with the Biden shit. Remember, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Donald Trump said, if you vote for Democrats, Jewish people, you hate Israel and yourself. Listen to the whites telling the kind of non-whites who's the real ones out here. You ain't a real Jew. You don't fuck with yourself if you don't vote for Donald Trump. You ain't a black person if you don't vote for Joe Biden. These motherfuckers have gone completely crazy, boys and girls and non-binary people. So anyway, I'm here for the shenanigans. I'm not going to even hold you. I'm here for all the shenanigans. That's the only thing I can be here for. That's it. Swear furry. What else we going to do? but pop popcorn. 2 F's. Jesus. Freddie French. When I tell you the light bulb went off when Jared Ball said, I just figured it out. It's 2 F's. As I have been calling your new handle for months now, TW offs. I did not deduce that it was 2 F's either until our learned brother, Dr. Ball, illuminated my goofy ass. 2 F's. I've been calling you TW offs. What's that mean? Trigger warnings off, Randy? What you mean by that? Whoo, kids. I'm not always the sharpest. It does take me a couple. I gotta catch on sometimes. I gotta catch on. The nuance goes over my head on occasion. So anyway, thank you guys for making some time. Let me get into these stories. Do me a favor. Hit like on the video, subscribe to Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Follow us at BIDWKB, places around the internet, Instagram, the tick of the talks, Twitch, at Burn It Down KB on Twitter. So, the passage of some recent crime bills and new legislation in a variety of US cities to address the quote, rampant increases on violent crime, carjackings. Here in DC, the DC crime bill recently was passed, in which drug free zones were implemented, in which if two or more persons are standing on a public street in a designated drug-free zone, these zones designated by the DC police themselves, police can bother them, harass them, possibly arrest them. Fun fact, by the way, the DC crime bill, some of these drug-free zones went into effect over the weekend, didn't seem to stop a mass shooting from happening on the corner of 7th and P Streets, Northwest DC, in the Shaw neighborhood, in which 7 people were shot, 2 people were killed. Some of these folks still remain hospitalized. So, in spite of police's best efforts, the DC City Council's best efforts to get a handle on crime by passing the crime bill and these punitive restrictions on public movement and public space and expanding the rights of police and diminishing the rights of citizens, a mass shooting still happened in Washington. Way to go, cops. Um, but even in the face of some of these crime bills passing in DC, New York City's taking additional measures with allowing new National Guards people to basically stop and frisk subway riders, crazy shit. An aspect, that all this stuff that we're experiencing in 2024 has big 1994 crime bill energy, right? Thank you, Joe Biden. But the other aspect of the crime bill of the 90s had to do with the war on drugs. Now, we know the war on drugs was initiated, obviously, by Richard Nixon in the 70s, basically to target the counterculture, uh, and target people on the left, basically, because we know that those on the right and conservatives do all of the drugs. Okay, they do all of them, every single kind you could think of. This is definitely not a partisan thing, as it were. But Nixon was trying to target absolutely certain communities, namely Black and brown communities, leftist people, etc., with this bogus war on drugs to accelerate the mass incarceration epidemic, intentional epidemic. But if you think that these laws went away or they just kind of eroded, nope, the war on drugs is still very much with us. And one of the holdovers of the war on drugs has to do with this notion of making people who receive public assistance make them jump through all kinds of hoops to still maintain that public assistance. And this has been insidious in a number of ways, right? Some of these policies were designed to basically keep single parents single, and namely single mothers, not allowing unmarried fathers of children to live in government subsidized housing for reasons nefarious and otherwise. But one of these other hoops to maintain your public assistance has to do with drug testing of people that receive assistance. And this is a very old thing. And this goes back to Reagan. This is some Reaganomics shit, right? This is all of that. This is Bill Clinton shit too, if I'm not mistaken. So, and apparently this is shit that's still going on in San Francisco, California in the year of our Lord 2024, where the mayor there, London Breed, who is a Black woman, a prominent member of the Black misleadership class, helped to introduce Proposition F, on the San Francisco ballot this past election. And with the primary election. And this was on the ballot along with some other very problematic things. But we're going to focus tonight on Prop F. So Prop F does a number of things. It is intended to address the quote, overdose crisis in San Francisco. I also imagine the intention is to focus on the so-called open air drug markets in San Francisco. I've never been to San Francisco. I don't know to the extent these drug markets, what they look like, open air drug markets, that is, what they look like. But the overdose crisis seems pretty significant, as it was reported over 800 people. I think the number is 815 Over 800 people died of overdoses in San Francisco in the year 2023. And this statistic has been somewhat attributed to why, in part, this bill was introduced. But I want us to go to the package if we could, because this package includes the pros and the cons, as it were, in the limited way in which local news outlets present things in a span of, 2.5 to possibly 5 minutes on the long side. But you are going to hear from the proponents of Prop F, mainly, I believe, coming from the Breed administration. And then you're going to hear from some opponents, namely coming from the city's medical community. Healthcare providers are against this, and they're not the only ones against this. But this package is going to be framed ahead of the vote. Okay. So the vote has already happened. Proposition F passed by voters by more than 60%. So this was a popular thing that voters agreed to in this past primary election, but it may not be a done deal. Not as of yet, but just to give some context to this, let's take a look at this package coming out of San Fran.
Mary, and in San Francisco, voters will weigh in on a controversial plan that would require drug screenings for those receiving cash assistance from the city. So Mayor London Breed put Prop F on the ballot, and while those receiving benefits would not have to prove sobriety, they would have to enroll in treatment if the city thinks it's necessary or lose the cash. The mayor says this is about reducing drug overdose deaths. A record 813 people died last year. Our Wilson Walker has more on this latest flashpoint in the city's drug crisis.
I live right here in this yellow building right here. It's a smaller place, it's single rooms.
But you got a place.
Yeah, got a place, you know what I mean?
For Andrew, it has been about 10 years of homelessness punctuated with occasional housing arrangements. And he has one now. That SRO gives him an escape from the elements and eligibility for $712 a month in cash through the County Adult Assistance Program. People who are unhoused, living on the streets, they are eligible for $109.
I don't take it for granted. Excuse my language, I appreciate every aspect of it, whether what it is, it's not.
On this day, he has stepped outside of that housing to join friends who gather partly for safety in numbers because of the lethality of the drugs they are using. Andrew says he's currently making a push for treatment, and Proposition F could force him to make some decisions in that regard. F would require anyone receiving CAP benefits to be screened for substance use disorder. And if that appears to be the case, they would be required to participate in a treatment program or lose those cash payments.
Honestly, I think that would disqualify people that need help. Like, the drug screening is not the right approach for me personally,
That is what's going to help us move this city forward out of what was a very challenging time.
Proposition F is the mayor's ballot measure, another proposal for responding to the ongoing opioid crisis. And reaction to the plan runs right along some very well-established fault lines in that discussion.
F is a cynical and unserious waste of resources that will materially harm very vulnerable people.
Lining up in opposition are many of the care providers San Francisco contracts with for the city's response to the drug crisis. No on F campaign director Sarah Short says it will hurt those already in trouble.
In addition, many people who are on the streets now and using drugs will simply not apply for assistance and therefore not have any access to treatment through the services system.
When folks are addicted to this poison, and it's the worst addiction that I've ever seen in my 2 decades of doing this work, it's literally killing people, over 800 people last year. When we're giving them up to $700 a month and they're addicted, and using that to purchase fentanyl that will eventually kill them, that's not improving people's lives. So
Trent Rohr heads the San Francisco Human Services Agency. He says F would not cost anyone their housing or other benefits, but the cash, he argues, deserves more scrutiny. The city estimates about 1/3 of those receiving cash assistance have substance abuse disorder. and the city has been looking for those recipients during the past year's crackdown on sidewalk drug use.
21% of the people they arrested were on cap, were getting public assistance from the city. And of those, 43% of them, so almost half of the people who were receiving locally funded public assistance, said they lived in another city when they were arrested. They reported they lived, wherever else.
So it is the continuation of the debate over how to move people towards treatment, something San Francisco has struggled with and argued over for years now. Here is Gary McCoy of Health Right 360.
Always seems to be the default on like, we'll take care of this and we'll make a difference is almost always some type of punitive approach that punishes people.
People will say it's punitive. People will say it's paternalistic. Well, I would argue, yeah, it is paternalistic, because right now, people who are addicted are making life decisions that aren't good for them.
Now, those receiving the money, of course, have their own questions about how F might work. And Andrew, while skeptical of the drug screening plan, says he would like to see a different kind of drug crisis triage.
I think what would help people, like in my mind, what would help people would be like, instead of a drug screening, to like profile screen, like just have like a better way to organize the people who are actually living here, because there's a lot of people out here that not even from out here, don't even live here, just come here just to come here and buy fentanyl and just get stuck here and just are like taking up space. Excuse me. They should find a way to screen and find out who those people are, and maybe drug screen them and send them back to where they came from.
That is a conversation we will pick up another day, but F does raise the question of how much treatment is readily available for all of those in San Francisco who might need it. This proposition would pass with a simple majority vote.
And as I mentioned, it passed with way more than that. Prop F passed by the voters overwhelmingly by more than 60%. I think the actual margin was like 62, 63%, somewhere in there. So, I mean, it was a resounding yes on Prop F from San Francisco voters. So there was a couple things in that package I wanted to ask and raise questions about. So when the kind of conservative person came on talking about, yes, is this policy paternalistic? Yes, it is. But these people are making bad life decisions. I have questions. So, out of the 800 people on the streets of San Francisco in 2023 who died via overdose, how many of them do we know were actually poor people? Like, how many of them were actually on this assistance? Like, he's saying drug addicts are making bad decisions. No, what he means is poor drug addicts are making bad decisions, because middle class and wealthy people overdose and die on drugs all the time, right? So if this is about drug intervention, then there shouldn't be any stipulations or any strings attached to it. If it's about really getting people in treatment, then acknowledge that people from across the socioeconomic spectrum suffer from substance abuse and substance addiction, and suffer overdoses and die from these drugs. But I mean, it's this default assumption that somehow drug abuse and overdoses and deaths via overdose, it must be just the poor's doing that. And so we have to get involved with the amount of money that they received, because 1/5 of them and half of that 1/5 are using the cash assistance, and they're not even saying for certain whether or not these people who receive this cash assistance, I believe the number referenced in that package was 1/3 of those who receive cash assistance either admit or are suspected of having a drug abuse issue. But that doesn't tell me that they are actually spending the money on drugs. Like, I know we have this idea of the ravenous fiend who will sell his mama's stereo in order to feed that addiction. You'd be surprised, though. I told you guys I grew up for a number of years next to a very thriving crack house. When I tell you that these people had jobs, when I tell you that they went to work, when I tell you that they paid bills whilst smoking them rocks, like, people can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like a substance abuse issue doesn't necessarily have to be wholly debilitating in all of that. But it just goes to underscore like this neoliberal bullshit about law and order. And, we cannot give people who are poor and people who are struggling. We can't give them free things and just expect them to just live. You know what I mean? No, we have to incentivize. We have to make sure that they're not gaming the system. Hello, the rich and the elite game the system all the time. How come nobody is trying to tie the Sacklers tax shelter benefits to whether or not they are still out here pushing the drugs? Maybe that's the analogy I want to use for the next part of the story. Let me hold off on that Sackler family analogy. I think I'm misusing my analogies here. But hold on, I want us to tap in a little bit more into the debate that was happening there in San Francisco in advance of Prop F being put on the ballot and being passed. Again, like I said, this is London Breed, the mayor, one of the illustrious members of the Black misleadership class, which is thriving apparently out there. The Black misleadership is doing really well. Hashtag Black excellence. They're doing an exceptional job of fucking over poor people and fucking over Black people and browns. Way to go. But this debate, I came across this clip. Un momento, por favor. Let's see. What does it say? Superintendent. Who is this nigga? Mr. Dorsey. Superintendent Dorsey? My apologies, San Fran and the Bay Area people. I do not know your elected officials. But Superintendent Dorsey pointed to San Francisco's skyrocketing overdose deaths as a reason to support Prop F. But on the other hand, his opponent in this debate said the opposite. So actually, Will, what's the name of this outlet? What does that say? The San Francisco, it's not the Examiner. What's the name? I didn't write the credit on
San
it.
Francisco Chronicle.
Thank you. In the X video, the other X video that I have, where it says,
San Francisco Standard.
Thank you so much, sir. Can we cue that up, please? The San Francisco Standard hosted a debate between Superintendent Dorsey, who I think is not the good person in this clip, and another elected official. My deepest apologies for not having this man's name up here, but I think it's all accurately chironed and credited on the clip. So actually, I want us to listen to with the whites how the whites debated this, the people in power in San Francisco. Prop F. Everybody, take a listen.
Supervisor Dorsey, I believe you supported Prop F, correct? Why do you think that needy people who depend on these welfare subsidies to get by should have to be subjected to drug screening to get cash?
I don't think there is any harm in assessing people for substance use disorders and offering treatment and incentivizing it in coercive ways, if necessary. I feel that we should be doing everything we can to incentivize and support people who are struggling with addiction and do everything we can to incentivize and support recovery. What we're dealing with right now is you don't even need to be diagnosed with a substance use disorder to die of a drug overdose, given the lethality of the things that are out there. So it's not a panacea. There's not going to be panaceas on drug policy in this era, unfortunately, but I think we can make progress in the right direction.
Supervisor Dorsey pointed out rightly that this is the greatest public health crisis we've faced since the AIDS crisis. We didn't solve the AIDS crisis by coercing people out of the AIDS crisis. We didn't solve the AIDS crisis. We did it by education, by public health care, by strategic interventions, and by medical research. It wasn't through whatever the equivalent is of Prop F. That was what the Reagan administration tried to end us out of the AIDS crisis, which didn't get us out of there. And so I think if you think back to what's worked in the past and what hasn't, that's what got us out of the AIDS crisis. And that comprehensive approach is what's going to get us out of this crisis.
Drug dealing is an actual crime.
It is.
Using drugs is an actual crime. The analogy to the AIDS crisis was simply the loss of life. There really isn't. The analogy breaks down there. So I don't think it's valid to say we did this in the AIDS crisis and that this is something.
I don't think it's one-to-one.
Interesting. Points were made. Young Kevin there, Kevin Benedicio. I may have misraced Kevin. See, I'm not good at, I'm gonna stay out of it. But my bad, Kevin, if I mislabeled you as white and you're just, brown. a lighter shade of brown. Regardless, that was the tenor of the discussion, right, coming out of San Francisco. But Will, if you could pop up the San Francisco Chronicle piece for me, because the passing of Prop F may not quite be the done deal that I'm sure the Breed administration would like it to be, and this is for different reasons, right? So we saw the opposition in the previous clip from the medical community saying that you really shouldn't tie anything to cash benefits for people that are dealing with substance abuse, for the simple reason that, again, the assumption that people are just using the cash to buy the drugs. Some probably are, all probably are not, and so you're going to punish all of the people on these benefits by making them comply to some sort of drug treatment program. Which, by the way, a point that I wanted to raise really quick is that the treatment programs being offered by the city are free. And having known people who have dealt with the with substance abuse addiction, and the person I'm thinking about specifically had a crack problem and went to a number of city run drug treatment facilities, and they're usually the free ones, last 30 days, maybe you might luck out and get one for 60 days. And most recovering addicts and people who deal in substance abuse recovery will tell you that 30 days, 60 days is not nearly long enough to actually permanently kick a drug addiction. 30 days is enough to clean, as Judge Mathis say. Judge Mathis say 30 days in treatment is just enough to get you cleaned up so you can come out and get you a fresh high, right? Like 30 and 60 days treatment programs are not seriously or comprehensively addressing long-term substance abuse shit. So the Breed administration and Superintendent Dorsey can all the way fuck off with this bullshit rationale about, oh, well, we got to get people in treatment. Okay, well, then make it a meaningful fucking treatment. Don't just send people in there for 30 and 60 fucking days like you did something. You didn't. So anyway, back to why Prop F may not stick on the books. San Francisco city workers to block the controversial the controversial plan to force welfare recipients into drug treatment. Now, the San Francisco city workers who belong to public unions have expressed that the passage of this law without first presenting it to the union, without first presenting it to public sector employees and having them agree to it, the unions say that this violates and this constitutes unfair labor practices and have filed a complaint with the California Labor Relations Board. And what they say is that the mayor was supposed to, number one, consult the public the public service, union members about this to see if it was even in their capacity to handle this. Okay. So what am I talking about here? So for the cash recipients of this San Francisco public assistance, how many people are we talking about? According to the Chronicle, we're talking about 5,200 people, 5,200 people, okay? The union argues that their workers, their members are not prepared to handle these new responsibilities of drug testing an additional 5,000 people to see if they even qualify for benefits. And said that in addition to this being unfair labor practices, they do offer condemnation of the morality of Prop F, saying this is already going to exasperate and not help an existing problem. I think this is SEIU Local 1021. Shout out to SEIU Local 1021 out there for filing this. So what they're trying to do is prevent this law from going into effect. Prevent this Proposition F from going into effect. The San Francisco City Attorney responded and said that the claims brought by the labor union about additional work responsibilities, the city responded and said, well, the additional work is going to be negligible. It's not going to be that much work. It's not going to be that much harder to screen 5,000 additional people. Oh, and by the way, the union also argues that the city is already short staffed and that union members who work for San Francisco already are overworked, underpaid. The resources are not there. I'm pretty sure, however, that the San Francisco Police Department probably got an increase in their budget. What would you guys think about that? I don't know that for a fact. I just suspect it would be completely on trend. That's good, Will. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to keep an eye on and see whether or not SEIU 1021 will have any success by getting Prop F to not be implemented into law. By the way, London Breed is in a re-election campaign, in a re-election cycle. It may not have helped that she did not consult the public sector union members about Prop F and what that would mean for their day-to-day responsibilities and workload before going ahead and doing such that. So she has not yet gotten the endorsement of these unions, of these city workers, and maybe she won't get it as a result of this bullshit. Guys, what London Breed has passed there, and again, there's some police shit that also passed in San Francisco. I would like to actually hold that and talk about it on the Remex Morning Show if they didn't talk about it this morning. I think this was Prop G, the crazy shit, that either E or G. Which one was it, Callie? Prop E or Prop G, the crazy shit they're gonna let the cops do out there. Woo! Yeah, that's another conversation. But anyway, as it pertains to this, this is vintage. This is Bill. This is Clinton-esque. All this, like, we got to drug test the welfare recipients because we got to get control of the overdoses, huh? Make it make fucking sense. Have we checked the socioeconomic background? Have we checked the household income of all of the 800 overdoses in San Francisco? Because I'm telling you, it was not all of the poorest out there. Let's be clear. San Francisco was one of the cities in this country where the income gap and the wealth gap has been tremendously exasperated. Gentrification has ran through San Francisco. Places that were historically Black areas, no longer such the case. And in fact, San Francisco is among the most unaffordable cities in America. So yeah, you're going to see tremendous rates of poverty. And when people are impoverished, crazy shit happens, like crime goes up because people are desperate. Crazy shit happens, like drug abuse goes up because people are trying to numb away their circumstance, right? And that is a coping mechanism. That's how some people respond to, poverty and unhousedness and lack of safety and security. Like, it's traumatic, right? So people are looking for a way to deal with that. So this concept that you have to withhold the cash from the poors in order to stop the overdoses is just so grossly short-sighted. It's classic neoliberal nonsense. This is big Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, fucking Hillary Clinton energy. This is giant that. And that shit didn't work in 94, and that's just not going to work in 2024. And they're not making the problem better. They're not addressing the issue of why people go to drugs. That shit just makes me mad. Hold on. Because I'm not done with the fucking 94 crime bill, aka 2024 all over again. Will, if you could pop up, please and thank you, that piece from this is out of Austin, Texas. Is that CBS Austin? Was this a packet? No, this is an article. Show me that. Get that up there, please, and thank you, you guys. Because in addition to, drug testing people that receive public assistance, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how you stop drugs. You give people drug tests and you make them go to treatment centers that don't work. And that's how you deal with drugs. It's a perfect way to deal with drugs. But the other ways, and the most damaging way in which this wayward ass government under both Republican and Democratic leadership have tried to address drugs in the form of the war on drugs has been to put people who are in possession of drugs and people who sell drugs in jail. And the three strikes you're out in the 90s was crazy. The mandatory minimums in the 90s was hella crazy. And I saw this story literally today and I was like, I said, that can't be right. I said, I didn't read that right. I said, that looks like a mistake. Surely that cannot be correct. Oh, kids, was I wrong? Here's the headline coming from, what is this? CBS Austin. This is out of Texas. It says Kingsland man gets 99 years and a $250,000 fine for meth possession. 99 years. Let's see, we do the math here. 100 minus 199. This man got 1 year short of 100 years in prison for meth possession and a $250,000 fine. Guys, I'd like for you all to meet 29-year-old Daniel Lamone. Daniel Lamone is a Texas man. And here's the article. So it says a Kingsland man has been sentenced to 99 years and a fine of $250,000 for possession of marijuana, according to a district attorney, Sonny McHale. No, McAfee. Yes, Sonny McAfee. Daniel Lamone, 29, was found guilty by a jury last month of possession of over 40 grams of methamphetamines with intent to distribute. Okay. So here's what they actually caught Daniel with. So he was convicted of possession of over 40 grams, but actually, according to the statement from District Attorney McAfee, Clano County deputies had discovered over 2 pounds of methamphetamine hidden under a speaker box in Lamone's vehicle during a traffic stop. Now, I want you guys to stop right there. Okay, wait, hold on. Don't stop right there. It said Lamone fled on foot before being apprehended and arrested in a nearby neighborhood. So, you guys, 29-year-old Daniel Lamone was pulled over for a traffic stop by am I saying that right? No, it's Llano County, Llano, Llano County, Texas. Y'all familiar? Daniel Lamone was pulled over by Llano County deputies for a traffic stop, right? So, and they found 2 pounds of meth in his speaker. And then he ran. What Daniel didn't do, Daniel didn't shoot at the police. Daniel wasn't even found in possession of a gun. Daniel, in fact, is not accused of doing anything violent whatsoever. I am curious why police even stopped him in the first place, because all it says in this article is a traffic violation. But we know oftentimes law enforcement will use the guise of pretextual stops to gain entrance and access into a motorist vehicle in order to further additional searches and search for contraband. Now, in this case, in this case, they hit gold, right? But we know overwhelmingly, statistics tell us this, that these pretextual stops usually don't yield in anything close to this, right? So these cops kind of got lucky, but did they get lucky? My suspicion is I feel like somebody dropped a dime on fucking Daniel. Because, okay, let me get back to the article, because it says during the trial's punishment phase, evidence was presented of Lamone's two previous convictions in Llano County. Oh damn, he got caught in the same spot. For in Llano County for manufacturing. Oh, pardon me, not manufacturing, for methamphetamine possession once again. So he had got caught twice before in Llano County for methamphetamine possession and possession with intent to distribute. So they kind of hit Daniel here with the three strikes type sentencing, right? It says Llano he was released from parole, which he was still on when he was when he was committing the current offense. Okay, he was still on parole. Okay, I don't even care that he was still on parole. I don't care that he was on parole, guys. I do not care this man is on parole, because there's several things about this case in particular which I literally just found today, but I still have lots and lots of questions that don't really make any sense to me. So first of all, again, Daniel Lamone, there's what was reported and what's not being reported. So here's my thing. If Daniel Lamone was a violent felon, they would have said that. If he had violence in his past or was convicted of anything violent, even arrested for anything violent, that would have been included in this. If he was somehow undocumented and was in the country illegally, which it does not appear that he was, because he appears to be a Texas man from fucking Texas, right? If he was undocumented, that would be in here, right? If he had given the cops any real guff in a physical sense, if he'd have fought the police, if they found a gun on Daniel when he took off running, all that shit would be in here. Okay? So I need to understand why, though a convicted felon, convicted twice before for meth possession and possession with intent to distribute, but no violence, I need to understand why this man is in fucking jail for 99 years. 99 years. 9 years. I need to know who is served by putting this man in jail for the rest of his life, when he didn't hurt, kill, harm anybody. So okay, I hear all y'all, not y'all, but I hear the fucking the peanut gallery. Well, he was a drug dealer. He's poisoning his community. He's probably facilitated a number of drug overdoses. You don't know who that man killed with his drugs? That's correct. And then leads me back to the Sacklers. Okay. Now here come my Sackler analogy. Let that enter the chat. Because I see Daniel Lamone, 29 years old, getting sentenced to 99 years in jail for possession of 2 pounds of methamphetamines. Let's be clear. 2 pounds of methamphetamines. This motherfucker did not have 2 pounds of fucking plutonium. This nigga did not have 2 pounds of goddamn uranium. I don't know how they did it, but they found me, Marty. Run for it, Marty. No. Daniel wasn't out here hustling fucking weapon grades uranium out this bitch. This nigga had 2 pounds of meth. Big fucking deal. But to the point that his drugs might have killed somebody, well, the Sackler family, the people who helped to manufacture and create OxyContin, the hillbilly heroin, the opiate prescription drug that it was proven that the pharmaceutical company, primarily owned by the Sacklers, helped and encouraged their sales associates and their doctors to prescribe the shit out of this fucking opiate, and let's get these pharmaceutical drug addicts popping. And the Sacklers got to pay a fine. The Sacklers got to pull out their checkbook. The Sacklers got to make some donations. The Sacklers got to basically let their money write their exoneration, right? Daniel Lamone obviously doesn't have the Sackler money. Daniel Lamone, and to Daniel's credit, do you know how much fucking meth Daniel would have to sell to equal or rival the amount of addictive opiates that the Sacklers and their entities and corporations and their minions and their underlings? Do you understand how much meth Daniel would have to sell to even come close to the amount of new addicts and people who overdosed and eventually died from the offshoots of Oxycontin and the like? How come they ain't in jail? Ain't nobody even talked about putting them in fucking jail. that shit wasn't even on the table for discussion. Jail? They ain't going to no fucking jail. They get to write a check. Daniel Lamone gets 99 years in jail. And here we go, you guys, with this disparate justice system, right? For the riches, the rich don't even have to worry about doing no drug test to get no whatevers, no cash assistance, because they don't need it. Who cares if they overdose in the streets? Just let the riches overdose. And I know it's paradoxical and contradictory and all these things, but on the supply side of the drugs, if you poor and you hustling drugs because number one, you good at it. Number two, because it actually pays the bills instead of whatever the fuck passes for a wage in Texas, which I'm certain is probably not a whole lot, right? The real question for Daniel is, how can we redirect these skills, my nigga? Like, I feel like there's got to be a milieu, a middle between Daniel running meth up and down the highway and then Daniel doing 99 years in jail. In jail. And this is the whole point. Like, jail doesn't serve our society. It's not a productive function of how to address society's ills. I don't believe that this man, and trust me, let me please not find out that Daniel is actually a real terrible person out here just because they sell. I've never looked at drug dealers as intentionally bad people, right? I feel as though sometimes drug dealers, unfortunately, are making the best out of a shitball situation. And let's keep it a whole fucking buck. Okay, the drug supply industry, legal and illegal, is something that's always going to make money in America. Okay, Americans do drugs. Okay, we do drugs. We do a lot of drugs. Americans are somewhat particular about their drugs. Americans looking for the good drugs, if at all possible. So the drugs, this idea that we're ever going to get illegal drugs off the street, baby, it is supply and demand capitalism. Don't you understand? Capitalism, don't you understand that better than anybody? So long as there is a demand, a supplier will arrive on the scene and fill that service. But of course, capitalism knows that. Of course, America knows that. But how else are we going to fill these prisons unless only we're exploiting the economic hardship of Black and brown people who sell drugs in order to survive? Okay, I don't know 100% that is the case with Daniel Lamone. I would imagine coming out of jail, having been imprisoned twice for selling drugs, I would imagine that his job prospects were probably a little tough, right? Not an excuse, but a reality of the situation. So this is what happens. This is how recidivism, so-called recidivism, happens, right? People go to jail, they get arrested, get in trouble, get permanently marked with this record of incarceration, and then they get stigmatized, they get discriminated against, they get ostracized in some cases, and people are very reluctant to give them second chances. So sometimes they just go back to what the fuck they knew how to do, right? I suppose in Daniel's case, it was to run that meth up and down the street. But again, I feel like somebody dropped a dime on Daniel because Daniel seemed to be pretty clean out here, right? The fact that the cops had to go inside of his speaker to find this meth, that tells me that Daniel's floors was clean. All Daniel's, the glove compartment was clean, glove box was clean. What else was clean? Trunk was clean. Daniel ain't no dummy out here. Daniel was by and large trying to be on his shit out here. But I feel like somebody dropped a dime on Daniel. How the fuck else would the cops know to look in the goddamn speaker if everything else is clean? Y'all just brought the dog out. I wouldn't see again. That's a detail that I think may have been included if a canine officer was responsible for such a drug bust. They usually like to credit, the canine officer, Timmy, whatever the fuck. They usually always like to credit Chopper, the dog, for his good work. But so that's what I'm saying. Somebody dropped a dime on Daniel, told the Lamos County deputies to look in that speaker box. Daniel is out here riding dirty. Go get him. But you guys, I'm sorry, 99 years for drug possession is cruel and unusual. It is a hallmark of this criminal injustice system that is quite content to literally throw people's entire lives away because of their response to their economic condition and the response to this country being drug thirsty, right? Like it's almost kind of like a sick like a sick tease, like a sick twist, right? There's such a market and an appetite for drugs here. You can easily start selling drugs, and then here come the cops wanting to throw you in jail for taking advantage of the situation, for doing what the capitalists do on Wall Street, to do what the capitalists do in their offices and in their, in their boardrooms. Regular people can't take advantage of the system in that way. And that's another reason why we got to burn the system down. This shit is not being applied fairly across the board. Poor people are being made to take the brunt for all of this. Poor, black, and brown. So there's that. So fuck the war on drugs. Joe Biden is one of the architects or one of the mantle holders. I mean, he wasn't the architect, but he helped to expand it and embolden the war on drugs with the crime bill. And this is the kind of shit that we can expect under Democratic leadership, under Republican leadership. And that is why it's important that we get our hands on the system. We're gonna watch Trump and them burn it down. we're gonna watch while Trump and the J6 hostages. We're gonna watch Trump and the rest of the J6 hostages burn the shit down, and we're gonna swoop in and create the shit better. Well, we got to protect ourselves, obviously, from Trump and the J6 hostages, because they're gonna be coming for us next. But my point is, you understand what I'm saying? The vision for what is possible and the way that we can handle this, the way that we can deal with people transporting drugs, manufacturing drugs, doing drugs, dying from drugs, the whole state intervention, punitive conditions attached to addictions, and making sure that people are given unfathomable drug sentences is something that absolutely needs to go away, needs to be abolished, it needs to be burned down. Let me take a quick break. Oh shit, did I lie to Will? I might have lied to Will. Will, did I lie? Oh, it's 8:05. Well, if I can get through this junk in give me a time. Give me a time limit. Tell me, do you want me to try to get through my second joint in 10 minutes, 15 minutes? To what do I got? Because if you give me a time, I will hold to it.
10 if you could.
Oh shit.
Put the pressure on the Leo.
I gotta focus, man. I gotta focus, man.
Roaring. Let's go.
All right, let's get it in. All right, do me. Will said he got the places to see and people to do out here. So let me let me get it together. I can't go through my second round of shout outs, y'all, because Will's put me on the clock. So let me get into this. What's up, KJ Sakun? I see you. Real quick, everybody, like the video, subscribe to the channel, Burn It Down with Kim Brown, BIDWKB around the internet. Support us, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, BIDWKB is how you can support the channel. You can also run us some super chat. Super thanks are always appreciated, please, and thank you. So I wanted to get into this, and I'm going to try to be brief here. The 2-part documentary that ran on the Investigative Discovery called Quiet on Set. It is a look into Nickelodeon at the turn of the century in the early 2000s and looked at the ways in which a number of the child stars either were abused, sexually preyed upon by adults that were in proximity to them and that were their fellow professionals. I'm sorry, content warning for child sex abuse and exploitation. But it was a very eye-opening documentary that seemed to focus on the creation of a number of shows by a guy by the name of Dan Schneider. If you're of a certain age, I'm 45. If you remember the show Head of the Class, it was a sitcom. It was the first time actually we saw Robin Givens, I think, on network television. She was on Head of the Class. Schneider and his writing partner, who was also on Head of the Class, a guy by the name of Brian Robbins, after Head of the Class went away, they became very successful at producing and creating a number of Nickelodeon shows, hosted by kids that kids that age would know. Now, to be clear, in '94, when some of this shit was airing, I was not watching Nickelodeon. I did watch Nickelodeon as a younger kid. I'm talking about Kids Incorporated Nickelodeon. I'm talking about Double Dare Nickelodeon. Me and my friend were talking about this, and I said, I still feel like a failure that I never made it on Double Dare. Never made it on Double Dare, and I never made it to Space Camp. Man, dude, what's going on? So to see this information come out about some of what was going on behind the scenes at Nickelodeon was not at all shocking, but it to me was more proof positive. Number one, about the rampant nature of child sex abuse, the ways in which all male spaces that are all male, like all men, assume some fucking higgy hagger is going amiss, right? Like, I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry, y'all. The Catholic Church, the heads of Hollywood. I'm sorry, like the spots where it's the men only to themselves. Shit, I don't know about them Jones. I don't know about them Jones. So anyway, I want us to take it's so much to get into, and I wanted to hit on a couple of things really quick. So again, I actually recommend this if you have one of the streaming apps, Discovery Plus or HBO Max. I'm pretty sure it is on there, and I do recommend viewing it, especially if you were a person that came up and watched iCarly and Drake and Josh, and again, it wasn't Zach and Cody, that was Disney. Who else was it? Fucking Zoe 101. And what it revealed was Schneider and his co-writers and his producing team were overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly male. They inserted a lot of sexual innuendo into these children's programming, including depicting um lewd acts in a way. There was a whole little skit called Pickle Boy, right? Where, to go with that where you will, where someone slanging pickles was, they even showed a clip of Ray Romano, who made a guest appearance on the show, where the pickle was like going through like the glory hole kind of way. I'm like, y'all did this for children? Like, and then they showed another clip of Ariana Grande as a child actor. She's trying to get juice out of the potato, and it's all very inappropriate and obviously laden with sexual innuendo. But the fact that it's coming out of the mouths of children who obviously did not have the insight or the maturity to understand the kind of jokes that they were telling. And unfortunately, some of these interviews with some of the parents of these child stars revealed that the parents themselves, although some were trying to be very proactive in keeping close eyes and ears on their kids, still these predators managed to have access to them. And I want us to go directly to the star of Drake and Josh, actor Drake Bell, whom before this documentary had not come out on the record to confirm that it was he who had been abused by a man named Brian Peck. Brian Peck was a dialogue coach acting coach, basically, who was allowed to work with the children. And he had worked in Hollywood for a long time, had worked on a number of other shows. Growing Pains, all those of a certain age remember Growing Pains. This guy worked on Growing Pains. And he was convicted, I believe, on 11 counts connected to the sexual abuse of Drake Bell. So quiet on the set. So this first clip I want us to take a look at. This comes after, I believe it was TMZ and maybe another news outlet was able to unseal the court records around Brian Peck's conviction surrounding his sexual abuse of Drake Bell. And what it shows is the number of Hollywood folks. I can only assume they knew what this man was being convicted of, or even what he was being charged with. And still, 41 people went on the record, some of them known actors, some of them known somebodies in Hollywood, went on the record to defend Brian Peck at sentencing and to blame the victim. Will, let's take a look at that first TikTok clip, please.
We wanted to understand who in Hollywood was supporting Brian through this. So we petitioned the court to unseal the letters of support in this case. Letters of support are meant to influence the judge during the sentencing. In this case, most of them are asking the judge just to give Brian probation. These 41 letters have been kept under seal for 2 decades. Some are from family, some are from friends. Dan Schneider does not write a letter. Top executives at Nickelodeon do not write letters, but some are from Hollywood insiders. You have the actor James Marsden. He writes in the letter, "I assure you, what Brian has been through in the last year is the suffering of 100 men." James Marsden writes that he's known Brian Peck for 14 years, since Marsden himself was a teenager. Taram Killam also wrote a letter of support. He writes, "I've seen the effects this situation has had on Brian, and I know for a fact that he regrets any mistakes made." Some other people who wrote letters of support include the famous sitcom dad, Alan Thicke, the X-Men producer, Tom DeSanto, Ron Melendez, another very well-known actor. Ryder Strong wrote a letter of support for Brian. And Will Friedle from Boy Meets World. We don't know exactly what these people were told about Brian's crimes before they wrote the letters. And we don't know which of these people, if any, were in the courtroom for Brian's sentencing. But these letters show how strong the support for Brian Peck was with people with industry connections. Outside of these individuals, there were over a dozen other letter writers who used similar language to blame the victim, saying that this wouldn't have happened unless Brian was tempted. Joanna Kearns, who met Brian when she was acting on Growing Pains, wrote, "I can only believe that there must have been some extreme situation or temptation exerted upon him to influence his actions." Kimmy Robertson is an actress. She wrote, "I believe with all my heart that Brian was pressured and pushed beyond belief before he caved." This logic is just victim blaming. When this minor suffered at the hands of an adult who was in a very senior, almost parental position to them.
Absolutely chilling but revealing details there from the Quiet on the Set documentary. And, a lot of people will point to Hollywood and be like, see, look at all the, I knew it was a bunch of Illuminati weirdos in Hollywood. Look how they do. And yes, absolutely. Look exactly how they do. Over 40 letters of support for a convicted pedophile, right? However, I want to just point this out. Like, to the extent that child sex abuse and rape culture is rampant in our society, I mean, we can point to any number of institutions or professional disciplines in which we see this happening, right? Like in law enforcement, right? We know that cops are notorious domestic abusers of their own partners. There's a number of lawsuits filed against DC Metropolitan Police right now by Black women officers alleging a culture of sexual harassment and inappropriate sexual advances towards them. I mentioned the Catholic Church, right? And not just as that as a religious institution, but the most well known of them, right? Rampantly abusing children across the globe for literally generations, right? Where else has the kids been messed with? And also in entertainment, in the music business. Jeffrey Epstein dealing in finance. Like it runs the gamut. It just goes to show you that children are sexually vulnerable to predatory adults, but overwhelmingly, not exclusively, but overwhelmingly predatory dudes. And you got to watch these kids around these dudes. And to Drake Bell parents' credit, his father peeped seemingly right away that Brian Peck was on some fucking creep shit with his son. But because of a family dispute, Drake's father was not present for all of this. And you just see how very easy it was for this teenage actor, this young man, to kind of fall into the clutches of this predator who just happened to be in Hollywood. And I wanted to go to this. You can cue that next clip real quick, Will, because when the sentencing came for Brian Peck, and we just saw the first part of it, where all of these people, dozens of people, wrote letters in support, many of them pushing for probation for Brian Peck. When Drake Bell, when it was his turn to stand up in the court and address either the court or to address directly Brian Peck, Drake Bell actually chose to address Brian Peck's supporters. And it was some of the most realest, hardest, courageous shit that I think I've heard from a survivor of sexual abuse, especially the horrendous kind of abuse that was detailed in the court documents that Drake Bell apparently suffered at the hands of Brian Peck. But let's listen to that, because I was actually quite impressed with this.
Different time, so I think it was a little easier to go to and from a courthouse and not worry about Twitter that night or TMZ paparazzis being there. On the day of sentencing for Brian, I get to the courthouse. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. His entire side of the courtroom was full. Full. There were definitely some recognizable faces on that side of the room. And my side was me, my mom, and my brother. Brian had been convicted, but getting all of this support from a lot of people in the industry, and yeah, I was pretty shocked. My mom got up, she had a statement. I wasn't going to address Brian. There was no reason to. I addressed my statement to everyone in the room. I looked at all of them, and I just said, "How dare you?" And I said, "You will forever have the memory of sitting in this courtroom and defending this person. And I will forever have the memory of the person you're defending violating me and doing unspeakable acts and crimes and that's what I'll remember.
I mean, that is so raw and so powerful and just so impactful. And I hope those people that came to support Brian Peck in the courtroom that day, I hope they left with some shame and some consideration to what this young man went through. Now, to be clear, Drake Bell later on apparently got into some quote unquote trouble where he was allegedly texting an underage girl. I don't think that he was convicted of ever touching her. I don't think that I don't think it got that far. But some would be like, well, look at him. He's got some allegations against him too. I mean, and that's fair to bring that up because it's not like it's not like it didn't happen, right? But we understand that people who are the victims or survivors of this kind of abuse sometimes tend to repeat that abuse. So I would encourage y'all to go look that up for yourself and see what the outcome was as it pertains to that. But just looking at this, I hope that men continue to find a voice in Me Too, right? And it's not easy. And we've talked about this on this platform, right? I know that there are men and boys that have been harassed, that have been inappropriately propositioned, that have been inappropriately touched, and worse. And I know the stigma surrounding homophobia and dude, I ain't gay. Like, there's a lot of that. And that keeps a lot of men quiet, a lot of survivors quiet, a lot of people who get subjected to these, inappropriate shit that keeps them quiet because society is fucked up, right? And it doesn't properly recognize or validate that these instances that happen to men from other men are traumatizing, and to keep them to yourself is hard. But it also helps to enable the culture of rape. And this is why these things persist and continue to happen, because when people don't speak up, then the perpetrator is not held accountable. And to be clear, Brian Peck, who is accused, I mean, her, some of the shit that they put on the screen, right? They didn't say the shit out loud, but Brian Peck against Drake Bell was accused of sodomy. He was accused of forced oral copulation on a child under the age of 16 and many other things, right? He was only sentenced to 16 months in jail. 16 months in jail. 16 months in jail. 16 months in jail. That's it. That's it. Anyway, so Drake Bell being a white man, I believe he's even straight. To my awareness, I believe he's even a straight white man. He is going to be this face for men's Me Too. And unfortunately, the way that compassion and sympathy in America is meted out, right? It always has to be the person who fits the top of the hierarchy phenotype, right? That gets heard first and usually gets the most sympathy. So, because Drake Bell is a straight white man and he's admitting that he had been sexually molested, maybe that will make it a little safer for others like him to come out, and then others, non-white, maybe not straight, to come out and say that these things happen to them at the hands of these powerful, influential, and ultimately protected people. And the reason I say it's usually the straight white man, for example, like the conversation around trans and transgender folks really didn't open up until Caitlyn Jenner came out as Caitlyn, right? Well, how did Caitlyn Jenner have the privilege to come out as Caitlyn? Because Bruce Jenner was a straight white man, okay, right? So, fuck Chappelle and all those trans jokes that he said. But the one joint he said that I did laugh at when he said, "How the fuck Caitlyn Jenner got Woman of the Year and this bitch ain't never had a period?" But you understand what I'm saying? Like, where's the space for the other, trans folks that weren't white and male, right? To begin with. So anyway, I'm hoping that Drake Bell's revelation will continue, but will kick open the doors. Like, here's the thing: it's not so much that I'm desperate for sexual abuse survivors to come bare their souls to us and share their traumas to us. That's not what I'm looking for here. What I'm looking for is for the fucking serial predators to be fucking collected and dragged up. You know what I'm saying? If it's for the criminal trial that potentially could come, is it if it's for the civil penalties that could run them fucking pockets? Is it for the public humiliation and exposure? I'm here for all of these things, right? And the only way that these motherfuckers can be stopped, the Weinsteins can be stopped, the Epsteins can be stopped, the fucking Diddy's can be stopped, the Russell Simmons can be stopped, Brian Pecks can be stopped, is when people come forward and say, this person harmed me, and I'm hoping that by telling my story, this person will never get to harm another person. You know what I'm saying? Or it will be known that this is what kind of time this person is on, so everybody else can move accordingly around them or keep their eye on them in the appropriate ways, right? And also very quickly, the other aspect about this quiet on the set stuff, they did touch on Amanda Bynes. Again, she was a little after my child generation, but obviously a very talented young lady. But I do know the tabloid stories about her, issues with substance abuse and also mental health. And she was all up in the Nickelodeon, algorithm, all up in the fucking matrix over there at Nickelodeon. It didn't say specifically that Amanda Bynes had been abused, but the inference that some of these white male older producers took a lot of interest in her and had a lot of access to her. And then, maybe that's doing too much deducing, but looking at her present state, it can be inferred that she experienced some abuse. And again, child sex abuse and child exploitation is not new in Hollywood, right? Children and their parents sometimes come to do whatever it takes in order to get that access to fame and celebrity and visibility. And I think that a lot of parents do try to keep their children out of harm's way, but you just not slick enough for these child predators. Okay, these child predators created the game, they are hip to the game, and most importantly, they are supported in the game, right? People will do things to separate you from your child, either physically or emotionally, in order to gain access. And all the glittery, shiny things are certainly enough to entice a child and to maybe even distract a parent who may have the best intentions, but again, you swimming in the tank with sharks, baby. You trying to rub elbows with devils. Like, you got to be on your extra P's and Q's when it comes to protecting your youngins. So anyway, I over recommend the Quiet on the Set documentary. I thought it was very good. I thought it was very compelling. I'm hoping that more men and boys will come forward about what happened to them. But I also hope that, these spaces that are completely homogenized, again, the writer's room in some of these Nickelodeon shows were almost exclusively white and male. Some of the white women came through and talked about how they endured sexual harassment and in unsafe or hostile work environments. Any space where it's all the men's is in charge, and then the underlings are all men, and it's like, no, no. As a woman and as a black, that is not the space for me, because I know fuckery will soon ensue if the fuckery is not already embedded in the culture right then and there. So anyway, guys, I hope that was probably longer than 10 minutes. My bad. Well, anyway, I'm done. Woo! Y'all have a good rest of your evening. Happy spring equinox. It will be spring, 11 p.m. tonight ish. So welcome into spring. Welcome into the new season. We will see you guys back here for Burn It Down with Kim Brown on Friday. And don't forget to tune into the Remix Morning Show. I'll be on there tomorrow for Wednesday of the Women's, Miércoles de las Mujeres. So join me and my comrades on BPM, please, and thank you. Thank you so much to Molly. Thank you so much to Will. Thank you so much to you for coming through and hanging out. We'll see y'all back here Friday. See y'all later.